Hey guys, it is Christina here. I hope you are having the most amazing day ever. For those of you who are new to my space, I am Christina. I'm a naturopath, herbalist, GAPS practitioner, life coach, and carnivore. So here's my message, and this is a message I have been sharing probably in my support groups at the moment. So I have, if you don't know, I run a GAPS coaching call. So every Thursday night we do GAPS coaching, as well as, they have other features that they're able to access. And then I also run a support group of those who are choosing to go carnivore. And so in both of those spaces, this tends to be a challenging time of the year. And I think probably for anyone with food allergies, it tends to be a challenging time of the year. If you are someone who's, gluten-free because you've got celiacs or you're gluten intolerant, if you are somebody who has got lots of food sensitivities and you have to avoid particular foods, if you are a parent of children who have food allergies and they have to avoid certain different foods, if you are somebody like me who is on their own health journey, you've got an autoimmune disease, or you have, for me, I'm dealing with type 2 diabetes and obesity and so on. If you have those challenges, Christmas and Easter tend to be some of the most challenging times of the year. I think Christmas even more, because Christmas happens and then there's 7 days that we turn into New Year. And the challenge is, especially if you're doing it for kids or with kids, is what do we do? How do we manage Christmas, and how do we deal with that scenario of, getting together with families, food being a big issue, and not wanting it to be a big issue. Like, I think that's the big thing, is that majority of people don't want it to be a big issue. And I think, I don't really care what other people eat. I'm choosing what I want to eat. And, so be it. Like, I'm not sitting there going, oh, you shouldn't be eating this and you shouldn't be eating that. No, that's not what actually happens for majority of us. Majority of us are just focused in, do I have the food that I actually need to eat to stay healthy and well? And or what sort of choices do I want to make around this period of time? And so one of the things that I've been saying in both of these spaces, when it comes to GAPS and when it comes to carnivore, or when it comes to people who have got allergens, etc., or even gluten intolerances, is essentially, don't let your decisions in December turn into February. Now, what I mean by that is that multiple things, one of which is that Christmas is more of an extended thing. Like, if you are working with somebody now, you might have already got out for your Christmas, your Christmas party, work staff party. If you are gathering with friends, you've got end of year school situations, you've got, meeting up with people for celebrations around Christmas, etc., etc. So there's often more than just the one day of Christmas. And there might also be different families that you need to go to and visit over this period of time. And so it tends to be more than just one day. And because it can be like Monday and Thursday, it might be, well, might as well not do Tuesday, Wednesday, just do whatever for those days, because I'm going to be eating something that's off plan on this other day. Now, when I say don't let December turn into February, it's because of that, as well as if you're eating something that's really outside of what's going to be beneficial for you. So I'll explain it from both perspectives. So if you've got lots of gatherings and you're having a bit here and you're having a bit there and you're having a bit there, it can be easy to fall into that mentality of, well, December is blown, I'll just do whatever I'm doing in December and eat whatever I want in December, and then I'll clean it all up in January. Which, as an adult, you're totally allowed to choose that. Like, you are absolutely allowed to choose that. However, what I can tell you happens from experience is not that. What I can tell you happens is that, it starts with a little bit here at one thing, then it goes to another thing, and then it's another thing, and then it's Christmas Day, and Christmas Day you've already decided you're eating whatever you want on Christmas Day, and you're going to have everything and all of the trimmings and all of that type of stuff. Again, you're totally allowed to choose that as an adult, right? If I have different feelings about choosing some of that for children, because they don't have that capacity that you have. But also, you're totally allowed to choose what you want to do for those days. But what inevitably happens is that it becomes this roller coaster ride where, you're on a sugar high, you're in a sugar coma, you're feeling pretty gross and yuck. And then the self-loathing starts to come in. And that self-loathing tends to look like, oh my God, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. I feel so bad. I feel so horrible. Why am I even bothering to try and get back on track because I can't do it? I'm stupid. I'm dumb. Like the circle of self-hate and loathing kind of starts to spiral. And that can be harder and more challenging than just abstaining in the first place. And so some people, no problem. Other people, it's a big problem. And what then can happen is because you're in this self-loathing phase that suddenly it's January already and you really aren't starting to get back on track until February. So you end up losing 2 months of 12. So that's a big chunk of the year that you've lost because of this one sort of it's not really one, but one sort of event. And so what I recommend for those people to do is, first of all, make conscious decisions. Choose, what am I actually going to have on Christmas Day that makes it special for me? So I've talked about this before, and I don't know if I'm even going to be able to do this because I don't really have an oven, so I don't know how I'm going to do it. But what I've talked about is potentially having a pavlova, because pavlova for me is that thing that is my family did it for Christmas. It's the memory that I have. It was like, oh my God, I can't wait to, like, that's all I wanted to eat on Christmas Day was the pavlova. And so how can I make that carnivore or as close to carnivore as I would be happy to? Could it be ketovore? And I can make it, you know, egg whites, for example, are carnivore. You know, depending on what else I add, which might be a little bit of cream of tartar and, you know, a little bit of vanilla essence, and maybe a sugar alternative like Truvia or something like that. That would be keto, right? Cream is carnivore, and then the berries would be keto. So I could make a ketovore pavlova. So I've picked what I want. How do I make it as close as possible to what I'm currently doing, so that it fits, you know, as close as possible into those parameters without doing too much damage per se. So that's what you can do. Pick what are those things that you want and how do I make them as healthy as possible or as least toxic to me so that I can enjoy them in that scenario. Now, there are some people that are going to be absolutely fantastic at not going off plan. Again, it's actually a choice you're allowed to make. And you've got to figure out what's going to work well for you, what you want to for quality of life versus, you know, sticking to plan, etc., etc. But also look at, you know, again, if you were like me, carnivore or keto or low carb, high fat, what are the meats that you're having for that day? And I have said this again as well to the carnivore group. If your family is not also carnivore, and they're going to be having things like potatoes and pumpkin and all of the other stuff that kind of is nice to you and you'd actually really like to partake in, why not let them have that, but pick your most favorite thing that you don't buy often because it's expensive to feed everybody. So that might be something like, you know, salmon with some prawns with something else that you really like, or it might be like that tomahawk steak, or it might be something else that's something that you don't often do because to feed the whole family. So I've got a family of 9, so this is a little bit bigger in my sense. So if I feed the family of 9 all like salmon, that's a lot more than if I feed them like, you know, chicken, right? And so if it's something that you really want to, you really enjoy, that's like, oh my God, that's my birthday food. Like if I can have it on my birthday, I'm feeling really happy. And that might be the tomahawk steak. That might be some salmon. That might be some prawns. That might be something else. Make that the star of your dish and really, you know, spend good quality money on getting that thing just for you. Even if you can't afford it for the whole family, just for you. And that's another element of what I've been talking about with my clients. So for me right now, you know, my family is kind of coming along. They're about 80% carnivore, but they're not 100% at this point because the focus is on getting my body right so that I can then help them do that better and I can be stronger and more robust to be able to help them do that. And I see that with a lot of mums. They'll often try and put their kids first, but they can't put their kids first because they don't have the energy to do the work or to make the decisions or to hold boundaries and those types of things because they're depleted already. And actually, if they start with them, their family generally starts to come along with them, even if it's just a little bit. And then as they get healthier and they get more energy and they get more robust and they are able to do more things, they're able to then take their family on that journey even more. And so it tends to work much better when you put the oxygen mask on yourself versus trying to put it on everybody else and leaving you to the end. And so this is what I want to say is make some strategies for Christmas. Like really decide, make the decisions and make them consciously. Don't just let it be, oh, well, whatever is going to happen, because that's when you get into the swirly swirls and the mixes of whatever. And that's when you get into that self-loathing cycle of like, I'm bad, what I'm doing is bad, everything is terrible, all of that sort of stuff, which is not actually the truth. You just made a decision. You did it on an unconscious level as opposed to a conscious level where you're choosing and you're actively deciding what would give me the most amount of enjoyment and experience during this. Maybe for you, it's not the making a pavlova alternative. Maybe it's just having the pavlova and that's your experience. You're again allowed to choose that, but actually choose it. The other thing I say is, as you're moving through these decisions, just bring some conscious awareness to those subconscious patterns. What are the stories that you're telling myself? Like, Christmas isn't Christmas without ... What are those stories? Where do they come from? Where did you learn that? How did you hear that? So for me, again, with the pavlova, where did that come from? What are the memories that come up? And what are the feelings that are evoked by those memories? And that's where I want to tap into, like, what are those feelings that are evoked by those memories, and how can I help bring those memories about without necessarily needing to focus solely on the food? So, for example, one of those memories is being together and being connected. And something Ben and I have been talking about for a little while about what I'd love to do on Christmas would be to have a big gathering of people and have a lot of those games. Like, I don't know if you are like me and you scroll through the reels sometimes and you see some of those Christmas games, where you've got a couple of teams and you're trying to do something and actually having fun together. That is the memory that comes up with the pavlova. So how do I help instigate and create that fun? How do I make those experiences? Well, if I give myself enough time, I can buy the adequate things that I need in order to play those games. I can put together the rules that I need for those games, get the things that I need for that. Like, I can evoke that memory or feeling of that memory by consciously making some choices that allow me to actually do that. So as you're going through the process, allow yourself to think about those thoughts of like, what am I missing? What do I really long for? What do I want? What stories am I telling myself? What are the feelings that I'm wanting to experience by eating that food or participating in this thing? What are those feelings? And it doesn't mean you don't eat the food and you don't participate in that thing, but how can I do it that's not a food-based situation? Because the goal is not that this year is perfect. The goal is that as you move forward, you create new traditions and you create new patterns and you create new cycles that help you ongoingly, that you replace some of the unhealthy things with some healthier things. And so that you can create, not just for you, but for your family, some traditions that actually help support health, but also foster that feeling that you're really wanting to experience over this Christmas season. Now, the other thing that I want to touch on when it comes to Christmas and not letting December turn into February is, for some of my really sensitive food clients, I know this is a challenging time of the year, especially for your little people. And for those little people, I always come back to this memory of having a client a couple of years ago now, and she was very sensitive to a lot of food, and her mum just wanted her to have something special on Christmas Day. And so she made something that was, an expanded list of what, she could potentially have. And for majority of people, it would have been totally fine. Like, for majority of people, that would have been a really healthy dessert that this little girl had. But for her, there was some food in there that was stretching and was challenging for her digestive system. And so she enjoyed it on the day, but then it took us nearly 2 months to get her health back on track after having that one meal. And of course, at the end, we're reflecting, going, it definitely was not worth it. But that's the challenge that a lot of mums experience, especially if they've got little people who have got significant food allergies that they're really working on around Christmas, is to try and hold as close and tight to where your child is currently at as possible. It requires a lot of creative thinking. Sometimes it requires you to put things in packages that look different. So picking a really nice bowl for whether it's, your Russian custard that you're having, whether it's some marshmallow that you're having that you can tolerate, whether it's something else that you're having with stewed apples, etc. Putting it in a really pretty bowl. Serving it with like really special utensils, making it special with other things than the food being the special item. So that it looks really pretty and it's really delicious. And remember, it's about the connection, not the actual food. And again, that's what I mean when I say don't let December turn into February, because January becomes a write-off when you're taking your time to get back to the level where you were already. And, in the scenario with the little girl that I'm sharing here, it took us 2 months to get her inflammation to come back down, to get her food reactions to come back down. And she lost some foods in that process. And then, of course, by February, we were able to start to get her back on track. But there was a significant amount of time of moving forward that she missed out on because of this one meal and one event. So here's my season's message. Don't let December turn into February. Don't lose a whole month and a half or 2 months because of this one event. Pick it consciously, choose consciously, bring some conscious awareness to your thinking and feeling around this time of the year. How can you make it as healthy as possible? How can you, what feelings are you wanting to evoke during this time of year by eating those foods? Is there some other ways that you can do that? Can you consciously make a choice to do that in some other ways? And, it doesn't have to be perfect. But let's stay as close as we possibly can, and let's keep it to the event as much as we possibly can, so that we're not suddenly in February and we've written off 2 months of the year already and we feel like we're a terrible person because we've sabotaged ourselves, we've let ourselves down, all of that type of stuff. If you're going to pick something that's not great for you, pick it consciously. Choose the consequences that come with that, and then let it be whatever it is and move on. Don't let it dwell. Don't let it be this spiral that you turn into a self-hate message. Just, I've made the choice. I chose that that's what I wanted to have. This is how it's going to make me feel. I'm okay with that. And then once it's done, I'm moving forward. Let that be the thing that happens versus the spiral. Don't lose 2 months of the year because of it. All right, that's it from me today. I hope you have the most amazing day. If you want to join my Carnivore support group, send me a message. If you want to join my GAPS group, send me a message and I'll hook you up. Otherwise, enjoy your Christmas and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. See you later.